Hello, and welcome to this reading of Book 18 of Emily Wilson's translation of Homer's Odyssey. I have a preview video to Book 18. Particularly if you're a newer reader, you might want to check that out before listening to Book 18. Book 18, Emily Wilson, entitles Two Beggars. Then came a man who begged throughout the town of Ithaca, notorious for greed. He ate and drank nonstop. So he was fat, but weak, with no capacity for fighting. The name his mother gave him as a child was Arneus, but all the young men called him Iris, because he was their messenger. Now this man tried to chase Odysseus from his own home and curse him. "Get away, old man, get out, or else you will be dragged out by the foot. Do you not see the suitors winking to tell me I must throw you out? This is embarrassing for me. I must make you get up right now, or we must fight." Scowling at him, Odysseus said, "Fool, I did not do you wrong or speak against you. I am not jealous of another beggar receiving gifts, however much he gets. The doorway can accommodate us both. Do not hog all the wealth. It is not yours. You seem to be a homeless man like me. Gods give all mortal blessings. Do not stir me to fight or lose my temper. I am old, but I will crack your ribs and smash your face to bloody pulp. Then I will have a day of peace tomorrow. You will not return here to the palace of Odysseus." Iris the vagabond was furious. "The greedy pig yaks on like some old woman scrubbing an oven. I will hurt him, punch him two-fisted, and rip out his teeth as farmers pull out the tusks from pigs that damage crops. Get greedy? Let me watch. How could you be so dumb to pick a fight with someone younger?" So on the threshold at the palace doors, their furious aggression reached its peak. Antinous, that saintly lord, incited the fight, and with a chuckle told the suitors, "My friends, we never had so fine a show brought to this house before. The gods be thanked, these two are getting ready for a brawl. Quick, let us goad them on." They all jumped up, laughing, and gathered round the ragged beggars. Antinous addressed them. "Listen, suitors. Goat stomachs stuffed with fat and blood are roasting over the fire for dinner. Let the beggar who wins the fight choose one of these and take it. And he can always eat with us in future, and will let no other beggar come to share our company." They all agreed. The strategist, Odysseus, deceived them, saying, "My friends, there is no way a man as old as me, worn down by suffering, can fight a younger man. My hunger forces bad choices, tempting me to take the beating. But swear a mighty oath that none of you will step up to help Iris out and hit me roughly with fists and make me lose to him." All of them swore the oath as he had asked. The holy prince Telemachus said, "Guest, if your brave spirit urges you to fight against this challenger, you need not worry about the others. Anyone who strikes you will face a multitude. I am your host. Eurymachus and this Antinous are sensible, and they agree with me." They all consented, and Odysseus took off his rags and tied them round his waist, revealing massive thighs and mighty shoulders, enormous chest, and sturdy arms. Athena stood near him and increased his strength to suit the shepherd of the people. All the suitors were flabbergasted, and they said, "This means the end of Iris, brought upon himself. What muscles underneath the old man's rags. Iris was deeply troubled and afraid. His heart sank, but the house slaves made him gird his tunic and get ready. He was shaking. Antinous said, "Ha, you big show-off, you would better be dead than so afraid of some old man worn down by suffering. If this man beats you, proving he is stronger, I will toss you on board a ship and send you off to King Achaetus in mainland Greece, the lord of cruelty and pain. He will cut off your nose and ears with pitiless bronze, and then your genitals, and he will give them raw to his dogs to eat." These words increased his shakiness. Escorted to the ring, he stood. Both raised their fists. Odysseus, who had endured so many insults, wondered if he should hit him hard enough to kill him, or give him just a tap to knock him down. A light touch would be best, he thought, in case the suitors cottoned on. They came to blows. First, Iris hit Odysseus' shoulder. Odysseus punched Iris on his neck below the ear and broke his jaw. Red blood gushed from his mouth, and with a moan he fell, teeth chattering, legs flailing. Then the suitors threw up their hands to cheer and died of laughter. Odysseus seized Iris by the foot, dragging him through the gateway to the courtyard, and propped him by the wall. He put a staff into his hand and said, "Sit there and keep the dogs and pigs away, you good-for-nothing. You must not bully visitors and beggars, or you will suffer even worse than this." Then, picking up his ragged bag, he slung it across his shoulders by the strap and sat beside the door again. The suitors went inside and raised their cups. "May all the gods and Zeus give you your heart's desire." That Iris was sponging everywhere, the greedy pig. "You put a stop to him, and we will send him to Achaetus, the king of mass destruction." Odysseus was thrilled to hear this omen. Antinous set out the big goat stomach, stuffed full of blood and fat, in front of him. Amphinomus provided 2 bread baskets and a gold cup of wine and welcomed him. "Sir, be our guest, and may your future luck be good, though now you have so many troubles." Odysseus replied, his wits about him. "Amphinomus, you seem intelligent, like Nisus of Dulichium, your father. I heard about his wealth and excellence, and that you are his son. You are well spoken. Take note of what I say. Of all the creatures that live and breathe and creep on earth, we humans are weakest. When the gods bestow on us good fortune, and our legs are spry and limber, we think that nothing can ever go wrong. But when the gods bring misery and pain, we have to bear our suffering with calm. Our mood depends on what Zeus sends each day. I once had what most people count as wealth, great riches. I committed many crimes of violence, abuses of my power, abetted by my brothers and my father. No one should turn away from what is right. A man should quietly accept whatever the gods may give. I see how wickedly the suitors are behaving, wasting wealth and failing to respect the wife of one who soon will come back to his family and homeland. Very soon. May spirits guide you home, so you do not meet him when he comes. when he confronts the suitors in this hall, there will be blood." He poured an offering of sweet wine to the gods and took a sip, then passed the cup back to Amphinomus, who took it, then paced around the house, troubled at heart, his head bowed low. He saw the danger in his mind. But he was not fated to live. Athena had condemned him to be defeated by Telemachus with his strong spear. Amphinomus sat down on the same chair that he had sat on before. Athena, with her gray eyes glinting, gave thoughtful Penelope a new idea: to let the suitors see her, so desire would open up inside them like a sail, and so her son and husband would respect her. Mysteriously, she laughed and told her slave, "Eurynomy, I have a new desire to let the suitors see me, though I hate them. I also want to give my son advice, not to spend so much time with those proud men. They talk impressively, but their intentions are bad." Eurynomy replied, "My child, your words make sense, but you should wash and oil your skin, not go with blotches on your face to have this conversation with your son. You should not grieve forever, and your boy is older now. You always begged the gods to let you see him grown up, with a beard." Penelope replied with circumspection, "Eurynomy, I know you care for me, but do not tell me I should wash myself and put on oil. The gods destroyed my beauty that day my husband left in hollow ships. Go, call my slave girls, Hippodamia and Otone. They must come with me into the hall. I do not want to go to meet the men alone. It would be shameful." So the old woman went and called the girls. Athena's eyes were bright with plans. She poured sweet sleep onto Penelope, who lay down on her couch, her joints relaxed. She slept. Athena gave her gifts of godlike power to make the men astonished when they saw her. She put ambrosial beauty on Penelope's face, the kind that Aphrodite, wreathed in myrtle, uses before she dances with the Graces. She also made her shapelier and taller, and made Penelope's skin more white than ivory. The goddess left. The girls came in. Their talking woke up the queen. She felt her cheeks and said, "Despite my bitter grief, a peaceful sleep enveloped me. If only Artemis would bring me gentle death right now to end my misery. I waste my life in longing for my beloved husband, who was good at everything, the best of the Achaeans." She went down from her sunny room upstairs. The two slaves went with her. She reached the suitors and stood beside the central pillar, holding her gauzy veil before her face. Her two trustworthy slaves stood either side of her. The suitors weakened at the knees. Their desire bewitched them, and they longed to lie with her. She spoke to her dear son, Telemachus. "Telemachus, you're not thinking straight. When you were still a child, you had good sense. Now you're bigger. You've reached adulthood. You're so tall and so good looking now. People can see you are a rich man's son. Even a foreigner would know at once. And yet your judgment is askew. What happened that you allowed a guest to be insulted? If strangers in our house are so abused, what then? You'll be shamed. Your reputation will be destroyed." Telemachus replied with calculated purpose, "Mother, I do not blame you for being angry. In my heart, I do know right and wrong. I used to be a child. I am not now. But I cannot even afford to think my own heart's thoughts. Those evil suitors keep distracting me. and I have no one on my side. This fight between the stranger and that beggar Iris did not turn out as they had wished. The stranger was much stronger. Father, Zeus, Apollo, Athena, may the suitors in our house be beaten and bow down their heads, some in the house and some outside. May each man's body grow weak like Iris out there at the gate, sitting with head slumped down as if he were intoxicated. He cannot stand up nor go back home. His body's too frail. And then Eurymachus spoke up and said, O Queen Penelope, wise, prudent daughter of great Icarius, if all the Greeks could see you now, there would be far more suitors feasting here in your house from dawn to dusk, because no other woman equals you in beauty, stature, and well-balanced mind. Penelope replied with caution, No, the deathless gods destroyed my looks that day the Greeks embarked for Troy, and my own husband Odysseus went with them. If he came and started taking care of me again, I would regain my good name and my beauty. I am weighed down by grief. The spirit set so many troubles on me, and at the time that he left Ithaca, my husband grabbed my wrist, took my right hand, and said to me, Now, wife, I do not think we armored Greeks will all come home unharmed from Troy. They say the Trojans are good warriors with arrows and javelins, and they ride chariots drawn by swift horses, which can quickly turn the tide of war in which so many die. Some god may bring me home, or I may be captured out there in Troy. I do not know. You must remember this. My parents need to be well cared for in our house, as much as now, or more so, with me gone away. When our son's beard is grown, you must get married to any man you choose and leave your house. Those were my husband's words. The time has come. The night when I must marry is at hand. Terrible, I am cursed. Zeus took away my happiness. Another bitter thought oppresses me. It is not right or proper to court a decent woman in this way. A rich man's wife, competing for her hand. They ought to bring fat sheep and cows to feed my family and give fine gifts, not eat what is not theirs and offer nothing back. Odysseus, who had endured so much, was happy. She was secretly procuring presents and charming them with pretty words, while her mind moved elsewhere. Antinous said, Wise Penelope, take all the presents that any of the Greeks would like to bring. Refusing gifts is not polite, but we will not go back to our own farms or elsewhere until you choose the best of us to marry. They all agreed and sent their men for gifts. Antinous brought out a splendid robe, embroidered with 12 brooches of pure gold pinned to the fabric. And Eurymachus gave her a necklace, finely worked in gold, set in with amber beads that shone like sunlight. 2 slaves brought earrings from Eurydamas. They sparkled beautifully, and triple clusters like berries hung from each. Cassander's slave brought her a lovely choker, finely made. All the suitors gave her different gifts. The queen went upstairs to her room. Her slaves carried the splendid presents. Then the suitors turned back to watch the dancing and enjoy the captivating music. They stayed there in pleasure till black evening came. They set 3 braziers to light the whole great hall, stuffed with dry wood, well seasoned and fresh cut, combined with kindling. The slave girls owned by firm Odysseus took turns to light them. The king himself had all his wits about him and said, Slave girls, Odysseus, your master, has has been long gone. Go back and sit beside the queen and comfort her. Spin yarn or comb the wool. I can provide these men with light. If they decide to stay here till bright dawn rides on her lovely throne, I will not be defeated. I am tough. At that, the girls began to giggle, peeking at each other. Pretty Melantho, child of Dolius, had been brought up by Queen Penelope, who gave her toys and treated her just like a daughter. But Melantho, unconcerned about Penelope, was sleeping with Eurymachus. She started to insult Odysseus and taunt him. Poor old stranger, you're insane. You did not want to sleep out in the smithy or in the public shelter. Instead, you come here talking high and mighty among this crowd of men. Are you not scared? Wine may have dulled your senses, or perhaps you always say such idiotic things. Has your defeat of Iris made you crazy? That beggar, then watch out. A better man may fight you soon and punch your face so hard you'll be kicked out of this house all drenched in blood. Odysseus scowled back and said, You little dog, I will soon go and tell Telemachus what you have said, so he can slice you limb from limb. That made the woman tremble with fear. They thought he spoke the truth. They scattered through the house. He took his stand beside the braziers to keep them lit and looked at all the suitors. In his heart he formed his plans, which soon would be fulfilled. Athena wanted pain to sink down deep inside Odysseus. She made the suitors keep taunting him. Eurymachus was jeering to make the others laugh. Now listen, suitors, I have an intuition that this man has come into Odysseus's house through some god's will. His head is shining brightly under the lantern's light, perhaps because he's completely bald. And then he turned and asked Odysseus, the city sacker, Stranger, if I was hiring, would you like to labor on a distant farm for me? You'd be paid for sure if you could plant tall trees and build stone walls. And I'd give you your meals all year and clothes, including footwear. But you are only skilled at wickedness. You have no wish to work. You like to beg, traipsing around to stuff your greedy belly. Crafty Odysseus said, How I wish, Eurymachus, that we could have a contest in springtime in the meadow when the days are growing longer. I would have a scythe of perfect curvature, and so would you. The grass would be abundant. We would test our skill by working all day long, not eating until late evening. Or if we could plow using a pair of fine and well-fed oxen, strong and both equal in their power to pull, and if we had 4 acres of good soil, then you would see if I know how to cut a furrow straight. Or if Zeus suddenly made war begin tomorrow, and I had 2 spears, a shield, and a helmet, all of bronze, close fitted to my head, you would see me amid the throng of fighters at the front, and you would not hurl insults at my belly. You act aggressive, and you think you are a big, strong man, because you spend your time among this tiny group of low-born louts. But if Odysseus appeared, the doors, which are quite wide, would start to seem too narrow as you were struggling to get away. Scowling with rage, Eurymachus replied, You nasty hobo, I will make you pay for showing off in front of all of us. You should be scared. The wine has made you stupid. Or maybe you're always talking nonsense, or you're all puffed up from having won over the beggar Iris. Then he hurled a footstool at Odysseus, who ducked behind Amphinomus in fear. It hit the right hand of the slave boy serving wine. The wine jug fell and clattered on the ground. The boy fell backwards on the dust and moaned. The suitors' shouts resounded through the shadows. Too bad this foreign drifter did not die before he came here, causing all this bother. These arguments with beggars are disrupting our banquet. It's spoiling our nice evening. This silly fuss is dominating things. Telemachus spoke up with dignity. Most noble lords, this is insanity. Perhaps you dined too well, or else some god is stirring you. Now you have finished dinner. Go home and sleep whenever you're ready. I will not force you out. They bit their lips, surprised at the self-confidence he showed. Amphinomus, the famous son of Nissus, grandson of Lord Areteus, spoke out to all of them. My friends, what he has said was fair. No one need take offense. Do not abuse the stranger, nor the slaves who work in great Odysseus's house. The boy should fill the cups with wine, so we can pour libations, then go home. Telemachus can take care of the stranger. After all, the beggar came to his house. They agreed, and Mulius, the slave Amphinomus had brought there from Dulichium, mixed wine for all of them and shared the drinks around. They poured libations to the gods and sipped the cheering wine. When they had had enough, each of them went back home to his own bed.